lunch. I hope nobody will go to sleep. And the fourth of the day is by scholar couple from down under, that is Australia, but who are doing their research on Hatha Yoga at SOAS University from UK. First I'll introduce Dr. Jacqueline Hargreaves, the better half of Dr. Jason Birch. Jacqueline Hargreaves, BE Honours and ERYT. Sorry, I don't know what.
Bachelor of Engineering, and also.
She will tell you what ERYT is. He is the project manager of SOAS University London, Center of Yoga Studies, and program convener of Yoga Studies Online. Jacqueline's research focuses on the intersection of historical yoga and its contemporary applications, particularly in therapeutic settings. Notable contributions include her work on the Ayur Yoga project from Vienna University between 2016 and 20. Can I have your attention, please? Now, we were talking, I was introducing Dr. Jacqueline Hargreaves. She constructed a web-based visual and textual timeline of pre-modern Ayurveda and yoga, and her curation of Embodied Liberation, exhibition for the Hatha Yoga project at SOAS University of London. This exhibition, held at the Brunei Gallery, featured the documentary film she produced that brought to life the 18th century yoga practices of the Hatha Abhyasa Paddhati through embodied philology. So that is Dr. Jacqueline Hargreaves. I welcome you, Dr. Jacqueline. Now we go on to Dr. Jason Birch, who has DPhil and Oxon, and he will tell you what it is. He is an historian of South Asian traditions of yoga and medicine. He is a research associate of SOAS University of London and the University of Alberta. Birch's recent publications include Asanas of the Yoga Chintamani, the largest pre-modern compilation on postural practice. The Amaraugha and Amaraugha Prabodha of Gorakshanatha, the genesis of Hatha and Raja Yoga, a digital edition of the Hatha Pradipika, with colleagues of the Light on Hatha project, and on the plastic surgery of the ears and nose, the Nepalese version of the Sushruta Samhita, with colleagues of the Sushruta project. From 2015 to 2023, he was a senior research fellow of the Light on Hatha project and a postdoctoral research fellow of the Hatha Yoga project. He is a founding member of the SOAS Center of Yoga Studies and the peer-reviewed Journal of Yoga Studies. So I present to you Dr. Jason Birch and Dr. Jacqueline Hargreaves. They together will be speaking on Yogis in paint and print. I welcome Dr. Jason Birch.
So good afternoon, everyone. Jackie and I would like to thank Shri R.G. Singh and Shri H.S. Dharmendra Raghu for inviting us to speak at this event. Okay, sorry. I just get used to the sound system. We've been visiting their remarkable art museum and collections for the past 10 years. On every visit, R.G. Singh and Raghu have generously shared their encyclopedic knowledge of Mysore's art, culture and history, so much so that I continue to feel like a student in their presence. We offer this talk as a small gesture of gratitude for their help and kindness over the years. So the research that I'm about to present has been done by myself and my wife, Jacqueline Hargreaves. But because it's difficult for two people to present at the same time, I was given the job of presenting it to you. But during the Q&A at the end, if there is time, if you have any questions for Jackie, she can answer them. I'd also like to apologise in advance to any of you that were expecting a talk on Mysore art. We are indeed here in Mysore looking at materials that are very rich in their depictions of yogis, but that research is not quite ready. So what we're presenting today is research that we did last year on Rajasthan manuscripts and paintings, and we hope that that is of interest to you. So since the early stages of my doctoral research, I've been studying the history of physical yoga through a large corpus of texts composed in Sanskrit and Hindi-related vernaculars from the 11th to the 19th century. Physical yoga, often referred to as Hatha Yoga, has been closely associated with the Siddha traditions that trace their lineages to Matsyendranatha and Gorakshanatha. It was later popularized in the 15th century text, the Hatha Pradipika, which circulated widely across the Indian subcontinent. And there's a manuscript of the Hatha Pradipika that we've been working with, a palm leaf manuscript from the University of Hamburg's library. In recent years, however, our interest has turned to the literature on Hatha Yoga composed between the 16th and 19th century. During this period, discourse on physical yoga permeated a broad spectrum of India's society, ranging from scholarly Brahmins, astrologers, Vaidyas, and ministers of kings, to institutionalized sannyasins and renunciates of many kinds, including the Jains. In Karnataka alone, for example, Hatha Yogic asanas have been taught in the Mysore Palace, perhaps since the mid-19th century, and Hatha Yoga also appears in several medieval Virashaiva works. Its influence was indeed pervasive. In our research, we have become interested in paintings and illustrated manuscripts that depict yogis performing asanas, because there are clear limitations to understanding physical practices through textual descriptions alone. Texts describe numerous asanas and explain the ideas behind the practice of them, but illustrations show us the precise positioning of the body, who was practicing the posture, and sometimes even the yogi's accoutrements and hut. This visual information forms an important part of yoga's history. The illustrated manuscripts and temple murals we will discuss today provide visual material that complements textual descriptions. Together, these sources have enabled us to study two distinct collections of 84 and 108 asanas respectively, which were practiced by Ramanandis, Nats and Jains in the 18th and 19th centuries. Asanas from one of these collections were later taught internationally by Swami Shivananda of Rishikesh. His 1934 publication, Yoga Asanas, which you see on the right side of the screen, was widely distributed and translated into dozens of languages. It is still sold in bookstores today. Many of its postures, along with their names, have become the standard in yoga schools across Europe, America, and Asia. The asanas of the first collection are attested by 4 sources. The oldest is the 17th century Yoga Pradipika, which was composed in Braj Bhasha. Taken together, these sources can be located within a particular region of northwest India, spanning from Jaipur to Vrindavan and Jhansi. The most beautifully illustrated manuscript of this collection is currently held at the British Library. It was gifted to the library in 1899 by a British Army lieutenant who took it from the fort of Jhansi shortly after it was pillaged in 1858. The manuscript contains 118 folios. Each folio consists of a painting on one side and the text of the Yoga Pradipika on the other. The paintings depict Shaiva yogis, probably Naths, performing 84 asanas and 25 mudras. Each yogi bears tilaks on their forehead and body and wears a loincloth. Some have beards and some do not. Some have hanging matted hair, while others have their hair tied up. All are shown practicing outdoors, seated on a variety of mats, including animal skins, and set against ideal landscapes featuring trees, ponds, temples, or yoga huts. This collection is distinguished by many unique and complex seated, forward-folding, inverted and supine postures. In particular, it includes nearly a dozen unusual asanas in which the yogi balances on the sitting bones with the arms and legs raised in various positions, as you see here. This collection also includes the well-known postures of the Siddha traditions associated with Hatha Yoga, such as Matsyendrasana and Bhadra Gorakshasana, as well as asanas intended for ascetics, such as Tapkara Asana and Yati Asana. Although this manuscript depicts Shaiva yogis, the text, called the Yoga Pradipika, was composed by Jayat Ram, who was a devotee of Ram and, according to his own account, a disciple of a certain Krishnadas Payahari, a celibate ascetic who is mentioned in hagiographic accounts of the Ramanandi Sampradaya. Most of the asanas of the Yoga Pradipika are similar to those in an illustrated paper manuscript of the Yogasana Mala, a text that describes a total of 108 asanas. This text was composed in Rajasthan by another devotee of Ram approximately 50 years after the Yoga Pradipika. It contains line drawings of each asana and a textual description. Here you see that they're on separate pages, but on other folios actually the text and the image are combined and the text surrounds the line drawing of the yogi. In most cases, the asanas are almost identical to those of the Yoga Pradipika, but here you can still see, so this is an instance where the same asana is being depicted in both works. It has the same name and roughly the same shape, but you can still see that there's slight differences. So the British Library manuscript on the left has the feet slightly in front of the head, whereas the Yogasana Mala artist depicted the feet a little more towards the back of the head. And of course, it's and the art historians will no doubt observe this. It's a different sort of painting on the left side compared to the line drawings on the right. But in other cases, they are very different. So we have Mahamudra Asana on the left in the Yoga Pradipika is a sort of a forward folding pose with one leg outstretched. And Mahamudra is depicted in the Yogasana Mala as a seated pose with the Shanmukhi Mudra covering the eyes, the ears and the mouth with the fingers. So there was, by this time, some reinterpretation of the postures and differences in the sequences. However, the textual descriptions of the Yoga Pradipika and the Yogasana Mala are original compositions by each author, which suggests that they created these texts independently and observed yogis practicing related but not identical sets of asanas. It is likely that most of the asanas in this collection were practiced within the Nat Sampradaya, because they are depicted in walls at the Mahamandir and Uday Mandir in Jodhpur. Both temples were commissioned by Maharaj Man Singh in the early 19th century. The Mahamandir was built in 1805 as a shrine to Jalandhara, and its wall paintings date to around 1810. The temple's distinctive square interior is lined with 19 painted panels that each contain 4 or 5 yogis performing asanas, either inside or outside of huts set within a luminous forest landscape. In the early 1820s, Maharaj Man Singh constructed a second temple, the Uday Mandir, for his guru, Bhimnath. Its vibrant wall paintings depict Nat yogis in complex asanas, a significant number of which are identical to those painted on the walls of the Mahamandir. But you can, if you compare the two, though we weren't able to put these slides side by side, if you compare the two, you can see that paintings of the Mahamandir are certainly in worse condition at the moment, but are actually more finely painted than those in the Uday Mandir, which, although it's in better condition, somebody has also traced over many of the images, and so so what we have today is not as finely done as those in the Mahamandir. Some of the postures of the Uday Mandir have labels in Devanagari script. These labels have enabled us to prove that many of these asanas correspond in name and form to those described in the Yoga Pradipika and the Yogasana Mala. For example, Surya Asana is described in the Yoga Pradipika and is depicted similarly in the Yogasana Mala, the Mahamandir and the Uday Mandir, as shown here. So the Uday Mandir is on the right, and the Mahamandir on the left, and the Yogasana Mala in the centre. So usually when we see images in temples or murals, without any text, it can often be difficult to identify them, to know exactly what the name of the posture was, and so forth. But here we have an exceptional situation where just above the image there is the name of the asana written in Devanagari script. Okay. In the past, scholars have speculated that the 84 yogis on the walls of the Mahamandir and Uday Mandir represent the 84 siddhas. And there are in fact 2 modern publications that reproduce line drawings of these asanas with lists of the names of 84 siddhas. However, the Devanagari labels identifying the postures in the Uday Mandir suggest instead that the walls of this temple are showcasing a collection of asanas rather than siddhas. This interpretation is supported by the fact that while the asanas are distinct, many of the yogis performing them are not. It appears as though the artist painted a small number of yogis, perhaps 8 or so, performing 84 postures. The same yogi, whether a typology or an actual person, can be discerned in several postures, as seen, for example, in the 6 asanas of this slide. The 3 above are performed by a yogi with the same facial features, tightly curled hair, green earrings, and a horn with double mala beads. The 3 below are performed by a different yogi with short matted hair, white earrings, and a horn without mala beads. On this basis, we have proposed that the murals of both temples were designed to showcase a collection of 84 asanas, practiced by members of the Naat sect. The textual record has preserved the names of most of these postures, the diseases cured by the practice of them, and details of the breathing and meditational techniques integral to some of them. When the textual and visual evidence are considered together, a detailed record emerges of a collection of asanas that arose from an ascetic milieu and crossed sectarian boundaries in the 18th and 19th century. The second collection of asanas we would like to present today is preserved in 2 illustrated sources. These sources are located in Rajasthan and Varanasi as shown in the map. The earliest source of this collection is the Yogasana, a paper manuscript with vivid watercolour paintings of 108 asanas, along with 17 Sanskrit descriptions and commentarial passages in Hindi and Gujarati. The illustrations depict Jains performing yoga postures, some of which have names specific to Jainism. For example, as you can see here, the practitioner is shown performing Kai Utsarga. The figures can be identified as Jain because the artist employs such iconographic markers as small brooms and mouth covers in each painting, usually positioned to one side of the practitioner, as you can see here. Despite the clear Jain context, the collection is nonetheless a compilation that includes the distinctive asanas of earlier Hatha Yoga traditions, including Siddhasana, Matsyendrasana, and Gorakshasana. The second illustrated source is a printed book called the Charashi Asan, the 84 Asanas. It was compiled by Brahmachari Sri Nrisimha Sharma in 1897. The book contains Hindi descriptions of nearly 98 asanas and printed illustrations of Shaiva ascetics performing them. This work contains most of the same postures in the Jain Yogasana, but the explicit references to Jainism are absent. In fact, one of the asanas requires the yogi to spread out his matted hair, which is obviously something that a Jain ascetic could not do. Many of the asanas common to both works are highly distinctive. Some of the distinguishing features are self-massage by pressing one part of the body with either the fingers or the feet. So this, I think, is a good example where we can understand the practice more fully by having both the text and an illustration. So in the Yogasana, we just have this picture with the name of the asana underneath, Pavanasana. But in another Sanskrit source, I've found descriptions of these asanas that tell us what the yogi is doing. And I've translated here the description of Pavanasana from the Sanskrit source that says, having placed both index fingers on the region of the navel, one should massage the hips firmly. So just with the picture, it might look as though the yogi is placing the hands on the hips, but with the textual description, we actually know that he's supposed to be massaging the hips with the hands. And this is often the case for many of the other postures that we've been studying. Another distinctive feature is the way headstand and its variations are performed with the head on the fingers. As far as we are aware, this method is not found outside of this collection. So when I first saw these images, I thought that the artist had maybe represented this asana in maybe not a realistic way, because in most cases the head is placed on the ground when doing Shirshasana, or in this case it's called Vrikshasana. But then again, when I found the textual description of this pose, Vrikshasana, the textual description clearly says that one has to interlace one's fingers, place the hands on the ground, and then you place the head in the hands. So it's clear that the head is not touching the ground, it's the fingers. And so the artist has faithfully represented, we think, how this posture was done. Another remarkable feature of this collection is that it incorporates the iconic practices of tapasya as asanas. For example, Vama Dakshina Hasta Bhayankarasana in the Charashi Asana, shown on the left side of the slide, is strikingly similar to the ascetic practice of holding up one arm until it withers away. This classic form of tapasya, called Urdhva Bahu, is shown in the painting on the right side. As a yoga asana, it was probably not held for so long. In this collection, though, we see other forms of tapasya, such as standing on one leg, on the left side and the right side, and so forth. Most of the asanas of this collection were adopted by several early 20th century authors on yoga, the most notable being Swami Shivananda of Rishikesh. Shivananda's book, Yogasanas, was first published in 1934, and according to its introduction, the intention behind it was to explain 84 asanas from Yoga Shastras. More than 2/3 of the asanas in Shivananda's book correspond to those in the Jain Yogasana and the Charashyasana. The Charashyasana being published nearly 35 years before Shivananda's book. Many of these postures are unique to this collection, as seen, for example, in the following example. So on the left side we have Shivananda's description of Jeshtikasana, which I'll just have to go over to read because I can't see it from here. Actually, can I borrow? If I go over there to read it, then you won't hear me because I won't have the microphone. So I've got it here. Thanks. So Shivananda writes, this is an Jeshtikasana, this is an exercise for relaxation, like Shavasana. This must be done in the end of, or at the end of all the asanas. This is similar to Shavasana. In this asana, the hands are kept on the ground above your head, while in Shavasana, the hands are kept on the sides. So the difference is, as you can see illustrated, thank you, in the Charashyasana, is that the hands are above the head, the practitioner's lying upright, whereas if he were in Shavasana, the hands would be down by the sides of the body. And there you can see it's called Jeshtikasana. And here we see it in the Jain Yogasana. So there's clear correspondences here. And it's the same with the other asanas that are described in Shivananda's text. This collection of asanas also seems to have had an influence on what's often called, or what's being called in academia today as Calcutta Yoga, that came from Buddha Bose and is often taught internationally now as Hot Yoga or Bikram Yoga. And again, many of the unusual asanas in that collection can be traced back to the Jain Yogasana and the Charashyasana. So the point that we'd like to make here is that there's a clear continuity between older textual sources that we're coming across, and I think, and we, in fact, we have found others in Gujarati, Marathi, that were published before Shivananda wrote his book, and we're seeing a clear line of transmission just through tracing the texts to what has been taught internationally today as yoga. There is also a third distinct collection of asanas that was specific to Karnataka and Mysore. These asanas were described and illustrated in a chapter of the Sri Tattvanidhi. This chapter has been published and discussed by Professor Norman Sjoeman in his book on the yoga traditions of the Mysore Palace. We are currently undertaking further research on this collection and plan to present our findings next year, I hope, if we're ever invited back. To conclude our analysis and comparative study of the illustrated manuscripts and textual materials presented in this talk, we have identified two distinct collections of complex asanas that can be located within specific geographical regions of India. The combination of the illustrations and textual descriptions provide a comprehensive picture of a sophisticated postural practice that crossed sectarian and linguistic divides in the 18th and 19th century. Many of these asanas were later adopted by the gurus who disseminated yoga to an international audience in the early 20th century. If you are interested in further details, this research has been published in the peer-reviewed open access Journal of Yoga Studies, Volume 4. The article can be accessed and downloaded as a PDF via the QR code shown here. So thank you very much for your attention.
Any questions? Yes. Raghu, Mike, Shimantini.
In the beginning, they had shown that the three books. So one of that is Prahalada Charitra. How is yoga related to Prahalada Charitra?
Illustrated folio, two folios, in that manuscript that seem to have been inserted when the manuscript was put together, but it doesn't relate to the text so much, but it's nonetheless in a manuscript of that work.
So the story is not there and just the asanas are there?
Just the asanas.
Okay.
I would like to answer for your question. In Prahalada Charitram, it is said that being a Prahalada, a 4-year boy, he had a training, expert training in yoga as well, in the Chandamarka Gurukula. So his Adhyatmik Jnana was being taught by Narada as a Garbha Shriman when he was in the womb of Kayadu. But it is also said that his physical training happened in Chandamarka Gurukula at that young age. So maybe that is the reference.
That's Vivek Sridhar, who was our speaker last year. He spoke about ladies in symbolism of ladies in Krishna paintings.
Hi. Thank you very much for the presentation. I have two questions and also an insight. So I have a bit like 2.5 questions, please. My first question is the asanas that we had seen in the mandir, on the Uday Mandir, Mahamandir. I also remember in Melyokote. Why were these asanas represented in that way? Was it for the audience? Because it's by the king that is ordered, or is it for the audience, for the person who's looking at them, to have some sort of catharsis looking at these images, or what was the reason? Is my first question, please.
Okay, I'll answer that one first. Well, this this temple was built by the king, patronized by Man Singh, for the Nat sect, and it honors Jalandhara Nat. So I think the artwork is there depicting Nats practicing these asanas, showing their yoga practice, and that's part of the I suppose the honorific aim behind building the temple.
Thank you. My second question is...
I'll add something just to that. So Jalandhara Nat and the siddhas are displayed in the inner sanctum at the upper level, whereas these panels line the inner sanctum of the temple and basically face inwards, but they're at a lower level. So for me, they represent the practitioners that haven't necessarily reached the highest level yet. So you see the siddhas above and the king above, but the practitioners in the lower realm.
Oh, wow. Okay, thank you very much.
I'll add something from in the Vishwarupa Darshana, where Adi Virata Vishwarupa Darshana painting. Vishnu is shown with different 14 lokas. That is 7 Patala lokas and 7 Swarga lokas, and in between is the earth. So in one of the loka, Tapo loka, they show all these yogis doing different yogic postures. I think similar to that is in this mandir, Uday Mandir.
Yes, absolutely, Raghu. You have that represented in the
Yes, we saw that
lower
the
lung.
other day.
Yes, that's correct.
Thank you.
We have two paintings, Mysore paintings by Shilpi Shilpi, which is there in the palace. It has got shlokas called breathing techniques.
And also, if you see in Mysore paintings, the depiction of Dakshinamurti, he is seated on the Kailasa Parvata, and they show a lot of yogis. And also Govardhanagiri Dhari, where Krishna is lifting the mountain. There also they show these yogis in different postures. In fact, wherever the hills or hillocks are shown in Mysore paintings, yogis are shown without any this thing. They always show yogis, and that is the reason we got this particular talk on yoga postures, because you just don't do any yogic posture. You have to go deeper into that and learn more about it. In fact, every aspect of any paintings, if you go deeper, it will lead to a rabbit hole where you can explore its own new world. Like if you go into yoga, it's a different world. Next, you will be listening to Vinay Narkar, where he will speak about the textile tradition. That is a whole new world. So in painting, you can show so many things. Your jewelry, you can study only jewelries in painting. You can study textiles, or you can study yoga. So everything is a portal from where you can go into your own world and make a magical discovery of your own and make that painting your own. That is the reason we are bringing all these speakers. They might seem for you that they are not connected with Mysore painting, but if you put them together, finally you will get there.
My second question, from what I do remember, we saw some representations of asana, some yoga asana practices, as in the mudra form of asana, of hatha yoga, some also tapas form of hatha yoga. And then in some of the scriptures that you had shown, there was the linking of one movement to another. So vinyasa, I wanted to ask, in Hathabhyasa Padati, that was one of the main points. So I wanted to ask that.
The challenges that artists face, particularly when documenting yoga postures, is often they're moving. They're a static picture, but they're demonstrating a very complex practice. And so when we have the textual record alongside the artistic representation, we can fill in a lot of the detail. So one of the challenges with, for example, the Mysore practices that you see in the Sri Tattvanidhi, it is a very dynamic, moving practice. However, the artists have captured that posture in a moment in time, and the artists have to choose at what moment are they going to represent so that it really does distinguish that practice. And there's a lot of information missing, but sometimes it's gleaned by looking at the environment in which they practice, or what posture is put next to it, so it can be read in a sequence. I would say in the case of the Sri Tattvanidhi, when that was produced, it was sourced from another text. And in the Sri Tattvanidhi, the illustrations are put out of order. So it's not possible to see the connection and the flow of the postures. But if you revert to the original text, you can see that the sequence is there.
Thank you. My last question, please. In the Shavasana slide, can you please open it up? Here, I wanted to ask you, because to my little knowledge of Bharat of India, danda is a central thing, like a symbol. There's danda when we get old. There's dilli danda, the children play, and the danda, the stick as well, and the dandasana, the asana of danda. So I just wanted to ask you, is there any reference to danda here? Because I just see some dandas on the ground. Maybe I'm misperceiving.
You mean here? You mean here?
Yes.
No, they're not dundas. They're yogi accoutrements that are actually illustrated and described at the end of this text, the Charashiyasana, and they're used for the Shatkarma, for the cleansing practices. So they're actually pipes that you put into your mouth and cloth that you use to clean the nostrils and swallow for the so they're not dundas.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Okay.
Just to finish on that, this is the amount that we have of those instruments that were used by yogis. So.
Among the practicing Hindus, there are a lot of important cities that one has to visit in their lifetime. Dwarka, Puri, Avantika, Atra, Kashi. So Hagene, just like that, in the 21st century, we have all the Westerners doing this pilgrimage in 6 important cities of India. Haridwar, Rishikesh, Mate Gaya, Kashi, Varanasi, Pune, Mate Mysore. These are the important 6 cities in which they have this circuit. ನಾವು ಹೇಗೆ ಪರಿಕ್ರಮ ಮಾಡ್ತೀವಿ ಇವರುಗಳ ಪರಿಕ್ರಮ ಮಾಡಿ I've been seeing a lot of people doing this parikrama and coming out with newer and newer research. Actually, the subject of this talk should have been the yoga tradition of the Mysore Palace, but Dr. Jason says that he'll do it next year. So you are welcome and you have to do it. Because our students here, they have to, when they do an asana in a painting, you should know that it is not a run-of-a-mill kind of a illustration, but it has some basis. Now, we had this couple to show you that what is the basis of these paintings. And of course, Indian food, we savor North Indian food, South Indian food. There might be differences, there are similarities. So we have seen this particular text from the northern part of India. When you compare it with the Sri Tattvanidhi that was made in Mysore under the stewardship of Mummadi Krishraj Vadayar, there are not many differences. So the thought process is the same. Although it is one huge country, languages are different, but the whole thought process is similar. And in the long list of researchers, the Jacqueline and Jason are here. There was one, our Canada leader, he is unable to come to India because of visa issues between India and Canada. So Norman Joman Anta, he lived in the Mysore from the 60s till the 90s. He was a great friend of Shiva Priyananda. And both of them together have written a lot of things about Mysore painting, including a monograph on the erotic paintings in the Mysore school. So maybe we hope Norman will be given an opportunity to visit India once again, and maybe we'll have him as a speaker in the next year along with this couple. And Uruve, just like what I mentioned about Professor Anna Dalla Piccola, could be ಇವರು ಅವ್ರದ್ದು ವಾಪಸ್ ಬಾಕಿ ಏನಿದೆ ತೀರ್ಸಕ್ಕೆ ಬಂದಿದ್ದಾರೆ ಇಲ್ಲಿಗೆ. And they've come to repay back the debt. Perhaps from your earlier life, both of you were yoga practitioners and you have come back here to enlighten us. Thank you. That was a wonderful afternoon. And we have the next speaker. Over to Raghu, please.
Adage goes, picture abhi baki hai for next year. With immense thanks to Dr. Jason and Dr. Jacqueline